interesting platform for people, especially in this age where data and privacy becomes more and more and more relevant.
Yeah, our mission is all around building better relationships and strengthening better relationships between people and platforms and making the internet less annoying. So the easiest way to limit risk from a data privacy standpoint, because nobody reads privacy policies, no one reads any of that because you just have to sign up for stuff, is to continuously kind of be paring it back like like gardening, right? You're just like pruning it back at all times. One of the things that we've been working on and we've updated for the public beta is kind of this new kind of homepage, which is almost like it's the first foray into like a Fitbit for digital health, basically. It's like you have 500 accounts. We're not expecting you to just go like spend 4 days just deleting accounts, but like, can you start to do 5 actions, 10 actions, 20 actions a month so that you're starting to at least curb the tide of data that's going out there about you? And that's been successful.
Well, Chris, talk to me about what a design cooperative is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Ruca 6 years ago now, and based on kind of knowledge that I picked up through running more traditional UX design agencies and also startups and talking to lots of VCs and stuff throughout all those grinds, kind of wanted to develop a different model that had a flat, non-hierarchical, creative kind of self-organizing model. And so that's what Ruca started as and what Ruca has always been. So what a design cooperative for us means is that there's profit sharing with the creatives. There's not an account structure. So it's based on everything that kind of brings the best product, creative, strategists, independent, creative, entrepreneurial type of talent to bear. And so we kind of removed all the things that they don't like. And that's kind of how cooperative came about. But to us, that just means a flat structure, self-organizing, agile, like a support structure, and that there's profit sharing and people bring projects in, people take projects away. We help founders launch companies, we invest in companies, give to foundations. It's like what we've kind of termed over the years like an adaptive organism, right? Ruca runs on 6-month business plans. We don't think further out than 6 months, and we treat Ruca like a product with its own operating system, which is a people-based operating system with some technology underneath it, that we're always just kind of doing retrospectives on with all the members inside of Ruca, which now has over 100 members, and iterating on that. So it's not a distinct agency, and it kind of never will be.
Yeah, and one of the things that I have always thought is interesting in terms of your model is you have low overhead, right? You don't have a lot of full-time employees, or you have fewer, right? And you're kind of bringing in the best talent for the right role when necessary, and it's about this network. How do you compare the cooperative approach versus a traditional agency? Pros, cons, like why this model?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's kind of these collective models that you're seeing pop up all over the place now because there's a lot of people getting laid off and stuff, and there's a lot of just kind of independent talent out there. And so Ruka is kind of a blend of that because we've kind of been doing remote first independent creatives before COVID, before all of that, just because that was based on user need of the people that were inside of Ruka. But yeah, how I see it, the kind of the pros and the cons. The pros is we move faster, definitely more lightweight than any kind of agency out there. We don't have physical space, but we do have kind of co-working spaces that people meet at if they want to in our kind of local hubs, which are New York, Chicago, San Jose, Nepal, and Manila, Philippines, and Lisbon, Portugal now. So we do have some office space, but more on-demand kind of office space, I would say. And that, that's kind of comes from, I used to be at large agencies in Chicago and New York and seeing the price that people pay for rent and seeing what that does to agency rates. And that's not really, so if you kind of take out all that bullshit and kind of take out all the, like, I need to wine and dine, I need to host big meetups, I need to host all that type of stuff because I'm paying $100,000 a month for rent in, Chelsea, Manhattan, which was a real thing for an agency I worked at, then all of your rates go up and all of a sudden it's like $350 an hour and stuff for people that they're not seeing the end dollar to that. So for us, we let people choose whether they want to be full-time or independent contractors. Most people in our network want to be independent contractors because they get to choose what clients they work on. So it empowers them more. They also get to choose how they work, right? So it's not a typical 9-to-5 job. The only rule we used to have in Ruca is that you had to be available on East Coast hours just because we had enough people that most of our clients are in New York, and then we'd have a lot of people that wanted to go to like Southeast Asia and stuff, and that wasn't fair to the teams that we were organizing around those clients. So that was kind of the one rule that Ruca put in at the beginning was get your stuff done. We set kind of goals every 2 weeks, but it's not a typical 9 to 5. Just get your shit done and respect everybody. And people don't really rock the boat on that because it's empowering to them, so they don't. They usually, want to support everybody else, and you kind of have your own personal brand in there. Now we do have studios that have built up underneath and inside of Ruca for specific stuff like agile marketing, which we do out of the Philippines, and we have a lot of UX UI out of Costa Rica because I moved down there during the pandemic, and I started building another product that we'll talk about, Yorba, and that all started out of Costa Rica. So I had my own designers down there.
Yeah. So before we get into Yorba itself, talk a bit about how this collective is able to birth other products, because you're not just
Yeah.
focused on well, you are focused on client work. That is kind of the main focus. But then in addition to that, I know you've been able to do some investing in early stage startups. I know you've
Yeah.
been building some products. So talk about kind of the substrate that is Ruca, which empowers all these other areas.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. From the beginning with Ruca, so how we met, right? Through mutual friends on Advocate, right? Like Ruca started at the end of a previous startup of mine that had ran completely out of money, and so I was in a lot of debt, and I was tired of talking to all these venture capitalists that were gonna like nickel and dime me to the end of the time. So we created Ruca, and the original Ruca was Ruca.vc. Venture capital, and it was basically a manifesto on what we wanted to invest in. So Ruca started as an entity to earn our own money because we're not independently wealthy, turn that money into capital that we can build companies with, that we can invest in companies. And from the very beginning, we've done that. Even when I was still deep in debt, we had invested $50,000 in a parenting app that got acquired by Maven Clinic, right? And I was still like stretching to do that, but we wanted that to be a part of the model so bad. And so any contracts that came in the early days of Ruca, we'd win these contracts for like $250,000 website redesigns. We'd take 10 to 25% of the profit of that and put it into a fund, and we'd redistribute that to our founder friends. And that kind of started getting our name out around the different ecosystems that exist for that as kind of, oh, this is kind of a cool model. It's kind of like we used to say like, oh, it's like a Tom Shoes for service design. Like
Yeah.
we'll build a website, and some people that can't afford that, get either discounted rates or they're able to kind of send the elevator back down and create different products. Now that's a pretty robust ecosystem. We have our services, our foundation, our products, our ventures. So we have 4 pillars. Our foundation, we're donating back, which is through the co-op, upvoted there's like a theme every year that's then upvoted and then distributed, so that's been around. Like we've donated like computers to rural areas in Nepal, right, which is super cool. We donated a lot of stuff
And
down
that's
to there.
internally decided upon by
Yeah,
the
by
collective of the
Ruca.
members.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so if you're a member inside of Ruca, we'll have a couple themes that will go out. You'll pick a theme. Then of those themes, there'll be like, people propose different organizations that are worthy of kind of our money, I guess, our hard-earned money, and then we'll distribute that. So we've always done that at different levels: 1%, 2%, 5%, sometimes, depending on how the year is going. We got computers in like inner city Philadelphia was a cool one, and we get notes from them, and they send us notes. It's awesome. So that's our foundation part. Obviously, our services is all the things that we all know and love, right? UX, UI, CX stuff. It's the funding heart of Ruca. There's our foundation. Then there's our products, which we've developed lots of our own internal products. One of which is Yorba, which will be the first one to kind of enter market. But like any good product shop, we've developed a lot that have gotten much shorter than that and been like, there's not really much here, and it goes away. But we've always been investing in that. And then the last one is our ventures, which is our arm. We invest kind of 25K, 50K chunks. Sometimes we take 2 to 5% of equity in that as well, and we spin our whole network around them. So we do well with kind of usually like solo entrepreneurs, right, that are starting out and they don't have a huge team, and they can lean on a network of over 100 people to basically support them, product feedback, all that good stuff. So and we've had some success there. We've had We've had one exit where we just kind of cashed out on a round that when they raised more money, we got out and returned 5x, something like that to everybody. And that worked on that inside of Ruca, which is, they worked on it like 3 years ago. And all of a sudden they just get a check for like $16,000 something. They love it. They're like, oh shit, that actually went out. And then, and then we're holding shares in Maven and hoping they go IPO soon. And we got like small amount of shares, but it's worth it. It keeps it lively. And then even the founders that we've invested in that their products for whatever reason, right, like don't work out. They end up being VPs of product at like Airbnb, or they come back to us in different ways, and we're always there to help because they understand that we do things like invest our money when we're still in debt, and they like that because it's an entrepreneurial mindset. It's a non-stable
Yeah, I mean,
mindset.
it's really like a full ecosystem where
Yeah.
the lifeblood comes in from the services, right? The cash comes in from the services,
Yeah.
and then you have the giving back component with the foundation, which is also decided upon by the collective who are also doing the services work. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's the vehicles also of, okay, well, what do we want to build for ourselves, which we'll get into, and then also who do we want to empower to continue building, i.e., investing in entrepreneurs. And then
Yep.
in theory, it just keeps kind of building and spiraling and expanding and growing, and the network
Exactly.
effect happens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's we're starting in our 6th year to see kind of the fruit of that, right? But I think it all just kind of, just find good people, do good work, right? Repeat, repeat, repeat. And that eventually you're starting to layer on that. And, you're going to have some misses here and there, but, you do that long enough with enough kind of velocity behind it, you're going to have a lot of wins too. And that's been kind of fun to see for sure.
So let's talk product. You've
Let's
been
talk
working
product.
on Yorba. You've also, I'm sure, iterated and started other products.
Yeah.
Let's start with what Yorba is and how it's spun out, or how it was birthed in this product incubator, if you will, inside of Ruca.
Yeah, exactly. So about it was right around the start of the pandemic was when we kind of started the research and design phase of what became Yorba. But basically, we were itching to kind of start another product. Ruca was doing very well at the time, still is, but was doing very well. So we were kind of putting a lot of energy behind there because a lot of our clients, like who know our model, they kept being like, you keep not wanting to be an agency, but you're gonna like mess around and all of a sudden have this huge agency. And we were super scared about that. And so we were like, oh yeah, watch us. We're gonna just burn cash. We're gonna start investing in our own stuff, and you can't ever call us an agency when you watch what we're gonna start doing. So what we started Yorba as was basically applying, and it sounds cheesy, but like user-centric design to the internet as a whole, and just kind of like, what are the problems that we see out there? What are all the different kind of barriers to all this stuff? What's the crazy kind of chaotic, what's annoying about the current state of the internet? And we prioritize lots of different features, and one of those things that kind of came out of that ended up being a kind of a mishmash of what Yorba is today, which is kind of on a 5-phase approach. But what Yorba does is today is it allows you to kind of find all of your relationships online. So one of the things was people are just frustrated, especially people inside of like, our entrepreneurial friends, or people inside of Ruca that have 5 to 6 email addresses, multiple bank accounts, maybe their own companies, maybe they get paid in lots of different ways. They have to create new email addresses for different services clients that they work with and stuff. So basically, people are annoyed with how relationships are basically handled online. And so that's what Yorba set out to do, is to build a better way to manage relationships between people and platforms. And right now, in kind of the first phase of Yorba, we're not even to the original idea of Yorba, which is, I don't know if you ever remember that kind of the Craigslist thing. There's a diagram somebody did a long time ago with like Craigslist and like all these arrows and all these companies that are
how most good ideas or most big businesses can just take one vertical of Craigslist, break it out. Airbnb being one of the biggest example.
Yeah.
Uber as well,
Uber,
right? I need a ride. Exactly. Yeah.
So we talked to the Craigslist founder at the beginning of Yorba, and I was just like,
is he actually named Craig? I'm guessing.
Yeah, he actually is Craig. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's a cool guy that just does a lot of philanthropy. He would just like chat through email. I'd always be like, "Hey, you want to get on a call?" He was like, but he would like give us feedback on stuff. But no, I was talking to him a little bit about that at the beginning, and I thought it was interesting. So what we did was we took that same thing, and we're like, we've never seen one applied to Facebook, but people's kind of user, like what people feel about Facebook has dramatically shifted over the last 10 years, right? And so we were like, oh, let's apply that to Facebook. So we just looked at Facebook's mega menu and started like, this marketplace does this. Oh, Instagram is, obviously this like a Snapchat ripoff. So we were looking at things that they've bought and at things that they've replicated, essentially, that they couldn't buy. And then the thing that we thought was interesting was nobody's actually tried to attack Facebook's data kind of heart, which is their profiles and the information they have of people. And then through that, the connections that they use for that to go to platforms, right? And through Ruca, right, we have lots of founders and stuff, right, that we can talk to. Like we work with ZocDoc, we work with Zola, Forbes, all these different things. And so I talked to one of the main ones that was interesting. We talked about 20 of them founders, but talking to Zola's founder about kind of the information that they used to get through Facebook login and how they have it still, but they don't actually get that information anymore. Like they don't know the whole social graph is gone, and that's why that all existed. And then also with like Forbes and kind of all the data and kind of the the third party data, second party, all the stuff that is going away for these large media publications, and it's harder for them to personalize, and they're all trying to like just get you to pay them $1 to subscribe to like good journalism, and that's like hard, right? It's crazy how I'm a journalism major. It's crazy online journalism and like where it's gone. I'm glad I didn't go that path, to be honest with you.
Unfortunately, been slowly dying over
yeah,
multiple decades. Yeah,
it's been slowly dying. But so we were like, all right, we're going to go towards the Facebook profiles. We're going to build private profiles around self-sovereign identity. We're going to build it on Web3 infrastructure, but we're going to mimic Web2 patterns, basically. And we're going to build, and we started Yorba as a public benefit corporation. So PBC from the start, with a clear intent to be a public benefit and basically be the B Corp option at the moment of login. That was the goal of Yorba at the beginning. It still is the goal. But what we learned from lots of iteration stuff is that we needed to build a tool to bring members to us, right? And that there has been tools that have tried to been like, hey, we're a identity thing on MetaMask and all this crazy just like crypto stuff. And like our whole thing was like my mom has to understand it in Nebraska.
Right.
It's like
the mom test.
The mom test. If she doesn't like, we can have the craziest future tech and like, 90% of people don't give a shit, right? So it's just like, oh, cool, yeah, super secure, awesome, super secure,
and
can
also I understand what it is,
yeah,
and can I do the thing that it's supposed to do?
Yeah, and it's a private profile. So I have this really elegant, beautiful, like we want our premium profiles on Yorba to actually look better than any of these, right? Like, but to have all these data blocks, and you can actually control the types of data you're sharing with people, right? From travel companies to media companies, but you actually can tether that. And then the goal for Yorba eventually is to create what we call the third rail, which allows us to nuke it from Yorba, not having to go to that platform. So it's a bi-directional relationship brokering, and that's where Yorba's going.
So
yeah,
just to kind of summarize and make sure I'm getting this correctly. So rather than Facebook, which is we all have a Facebook profile, or most people have Facebook profiles, and on there you pour in all of your data. You do it for free. It's a free application. You pour in all your data, and they say, well, thanks for your data. I own it now. And then we can still use this you can sign into games, you can sign into websites, you can sign into these things. And they do share information over when you are signing in. Mm-hmm. The goal or the vision for Yorba, and I know it's kind of shifted and continues to shift, but is to have a public benefit corporation where you can actually control your data and you own your data and it is your data. And then you can still use it as a authentication to sign into different services, but you still hold the power, and it's resting with a benefit corporation rather than big, scary Meta, which doesn't give a shit about you.
Yeah. And no, that's a good summary. And, Yorba today, like what we're launching next week for the public beta is all around VRM, which is a concept out of Harvard with like Doc Searles and all their crew, which is vendor relationship management, which doesn't exist out there right now because it's very hard to do. And we've been working on it for 2 years to try to get people's and organize kind of all the relationships you have online. And it's chaotic and it's messy. And so that's what we're trying to do right now is here's everything that you pay money for, that you subscribe to, and that you pay money on a monthly basis. Here's everything that sends you emails, how many emails, how much you open, give you all that data insight. Here's all the logins that you have out there. Here's their data privacy grades, right? And like, do you want to keep those relationships? So just like kind of like a step on the scale moment, like, here's everything that you've accrued over the last 2 decades of traveling around the internet. There's a lot of barnacles and you don't even know most of them. Oh, and here's some data breaches. Here's like 12 things that have been breached in the last decade that you probably don't even know about. So giving you insight into all of that is all meant to just have you understand the awareness of the problem of like all the Web2 baggage that you have, so that we can bridge you to our Web3 self-sovereign identity solution to never have to do that again. because you will give you the control as long as you use Yorba to log in. And we're not actually hosting the data either. Like we don't want to be like, we don't monetize the data, we don't sell the data and stuff like that. So we're partnering with Solid Foundation is one of them, which does Web3 pods. It's the same. Tim Berners-Lee, founder of the internet. It's his kind of startup thing he's working on right now, and we've been talking with them now for a year around doing stuff. And it's it's the same type of technology that they're using with like the NHS in the UK and like health records for governments. So that's the type of data security that we're trying to do. And you own that pod, so you, Elijah, would have that pod on Yorba. Yorba does not have it. You're just granting us access for that, and then we're brokering the the relationships that you would have, the relationships and what data from what part of your pod you're sharing, right? So whether that's payment information, address information, and eventually you can sync that, right? So instead of like going to be like, oh, I just moved from New York to Lisbon, and I need to update my my home address, right? I'm going to go hit the main platforms that I know I need to update, but then most of the other ones have shitty data, right? And that's where the companies potentially like Yorba and would potentially even pay to have a better relationship with that, so they don't have to guess on third-party data or second-party data. It's like, here's just complete first-party data. They'll give it to you. Oh, they moved, they sync it. You have their new address on your Forbes profile, and that's tethered here. And all they have to do to give up that is you have to let them close the account offline, because that's the biggest barrier to all of this right now. And you kind of see it with the Spam Act, right? If you're familiar with that, it made it so that you have to, good actors, obviously there's a lot of crappy companies out there, but good actors, you have to include an unsubscribe link in mailing lists you send out so that some people can opt out within one click. That doesn't exist for deleting accounts. Most companies make it very hard for you to delete accounts, right? Like just imagine.
We pause it for 3 months and then we'll ping you to reactivate
yeah,
it.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Oh, you don't want to go. I'm just going to pause it. You've got 60 days, 60 days to rethink all this decision, even though you just went through a flow that took you 45 minutes that you probably rethought the decision multiple times and kept being like, hell yes, I'm going to delete this account.
Sign up in 3 seconds, unsubscribe in 45 minutes, and 3 months cooling off period.
And some of them you can't even do it, right? And so what we're working on there is yeah, exactly. So what we're working on there is to and there is legislation starting to go powered by Consumer Reports, which were part of what's called the Data Rights Protocol coalition of companies. And so Yorba is an authorized agent to be able to enact your data rights. Obviously, that only works with places that have laws like California and Europe, one of the reasons I'm here. And so you can enact those, and companies have 30 days to delete that, whether they have an easy way to delete your account or not. As soon as they get notice that you want it deleted, most of it, they have 30 days. And then if they don't do that, you can sue them. And that'd be a lot of fun.
That's where it ultimately goes. It's a litigation platform for scanning your data.
Although we do have something deep in our backlog, which are like, if our CTO listens to this, he'll be pissed I even brought it up, but we call it Yo Call Center, where we actually have a call center. And for like a premium plus, you basically have your own kind of like data assistant that you just mark things in the platform as like, I want this stuff deleted. Here's like 50 accounts I want deleted. And they call. Like, so we flip the script and say, we're going to call companies on your behalf and just start deleting stuff for you. Because most
delete,
of them
cancel,
don't make,
delete, cancel.
Yeah. Delete, cancel, unsubscribe, delete, cancel, unsubscribe. Unsubscribe is the easiest one, but delete, cancel. Yeah.
So to step back, I like what you said about the stepping on the scale moment. So first of all, you have this grander vision, right? All this is in purpose of that goal, and that basically taking the data, taking the authentication, taking the ability for me to control my data, giving it back to me. And Web 2, Web 3, some people just don't care. It's like, I want to have control and at the very least visibility in terms of where my data is and who is using it and why are they using it and do they still need it. And so the getting on the scale moment, I think, is like a really good visual of that. It's we've all been in this digital world for 15, 20, 30, 40 years, and there's so much just cruft that has built up, and who knows what accounts you have, and there really isn't a platform or a place you can go and say, hey, check all my shit. Who has my data? Who has my email address? Where do I have accounts? And like, if you ask anyone, they would be like, let me just, I'll remember like the top 30, but I don't really know what I signed up for 15 years ago, right? And so the ability to kind of just do that audit and say, here's all your shit. And then, oh, by the way, these ones have had data breaches. These ones have maybe other issues that you want to look into. And like, do you want us to go and cancel or unsubscribe or help you? I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
a pretty interesting communication and interesting platform for people, especially in this age where data and privacy becomes more and more and more relevant.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously we agree. And I think, our mission is all around building better relationships and strengthening better relationships between people and platforms and, making the internet less annoying. This kind of, you'll see that a lot on Yorba stuff. It's just annoying, right? So we're going to try to make it a little less annoying. If that is removing, 50% of your inbox clutter, because it's just all marketing spam and stuff that you sign. Like, it's crazy. Like, that's the amount of lists that you get on, because people always think of like, oh, well, I didn't sign up for that account and stuff. But the amount of lists that you get on, and the, you know, there's the annoying factor of it, but there's also just the like identity theft. Like, that's how people do this social jacking and stuff to be able to get into different accounts, is like, it's usually through old dormant accounts, right? So it's like, and you might sign up for, I'm going to order some Thai food at this restaurant with my mom in like Boston, and you order it, and then you're on their mailing list, and their mailing list gets shared with like, oh, they opened a new restaurant, it gets shared with them, and then they have to upload that mailing list into Grubhub, and then it gets into Grubhub, and then Grubhub gets hacked, and now your data got stolen. It's like all this
Yep.
crazy stuff. So the easiest way to limit risk from a data privacy standpoint, because nobody reads privacy policies, no one reads any of that, because you just have to sign up for stuff, is to continuously kind of be paring it back, like like gardening, right? You're just like pruning it back at all times. Like, you're not, and that's kind of one of the things that we've learned, and we've been in private beta for about 3-4 months now. And one of the things that we learned through that was, Yorba finds all this stuff and we'll be like, oh, you have 600 accounts. And a lot of our members in private beta were like, yeah, that's awesome. That's pretty impressive. And I have no idea where to start. So
Yep.
one of the things that we've been working on, and we've updated for the public beta, is kind of this new kind of homepage, which is almost like it's the first foray into like a Fitbit for digital health, basically. So it's like, like if you get on the scale, like if you're doing like any Noom or Precision Nutrition or any of those health platforms or Fitbit and stuff, that you'll be like, hey, you weigh, I'll keep it just a normal thing so people don't know what I weigh, because I've been on these, but you weigh 100 pounds, right? Would you like, and like you're not going to just stop eating and stuff like that. So maybe let's walk 5,000 steps a day. And Yorba's trying to do the same with kind of a digital health. Like, you have 500 accounts. We're not expecting you to just go like spend 4 days just deleting accounts, because it would probably even take longer than that. But like, can you start to do 5 actions, 10 actions, 20 actions a month, so that you're starting to at least curb the tide of data that's going out there about you? And that's been successful.
And that's really where lasting change happens. It's not in the here's a bunch of stuff, do it all at once. Like, starve yourself for the next 3 weeks, and then you'll be
Yeah.
you'll lose all the weight that you need to lose. It's about
Yeah.
sustainable changes to your behavior, and breaking it down and saying, hey, here are a few things that you could do today to improve your overall
Yeah.
digital footprint, to clean it up, to manage your relationships with third party vendors better. Being that Sherpa, being that guide to help people understand what the problem is, right? Because I don't know where I should
Yeah.
unsubscribe and what I'm even on. So first you identify the problem and the pain point, and then you say, okay, well, let's walk you through it. Let's go through this. Let's start getting a little bit healthier than we were last week.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, skip the fried food, eat the chicken, right? Like, just like a little bit, like, and then you start, it's the behavioral change to kind of, and we see that as like kind of navigating around the internet, right? Like, the less kind of bloat you have, the easier it is to go around the internet. I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but it does work, right? The leaner that you are online, the cleaner it is. It's like, I use password manager things, and eventually Yorba will have, once we have our storage online in Q1, we'll have passwords on it as well, but we don't consider ourselves a password manager and stuff. And most of those just kind of, they're good at kind of collecting all the bloat and making it so that you can keep kind of in that cycle.
Yeah.
And so, our goal is to make that a little bit easier to tell you what to delete and stuff. And that's not in their best interest, because they just want more data in there. So it's harder for you to change. And also, all those password managers are kind of getting eaten by the operating systems now. So, so we just kind of be a design layer on top of those, and we'll integrate with them, but not build our own thing there. But yeah, it's definitely, we have a lot of people come into Yorba, and they're like, we love this. This needs to exist. I need all that type of stuff. And then the biggest barrier we have right now is that first step, right? It's hard to kind of start doing it. So like, the easiest thing to do is just like unsubscribe from 5 mailing lists. And usually then people go nuts and start unsubscribing from lots of mailing lists. And that was one of the things that you were saying about like the data insights and stuff. We had talked to, once again, this is the good thing of having like Ruca's network around us. We had talked to one of the original heads of designs from Credit Karma, about their behavioral stuff and how they did that at the beginning. And he said it was all based on like, they didn't actually want people to open, they didn't care if people opened the emails. They just kind of gave them like a weekly insights email of like, here's your credit score. Did it change or not? Click if it did. If it didn't, great. See you never, right? But we'll keep sending you these on a weekly basis. So we're kind of monitoring this for you. Was there a breach or anything? And Yorba does that now. We have a weekly insights. We try to just send one email a week after onboarding all the scams are done. It's kind of one email a week that kind of monitors your digital footprint across things. But that was their big insight from Credit Karma was, and how they found product market fit was, essentially just like all the banks have this data on you. So being able to flip the script and kind of give consumers the power to have that data that banks had on them, even though Credit Karma at the beginning was paying tons of money for that data to give it to you for free, right? And it was a venture-backed company, and Yorba to date has been independent, and we really want to try to make it to market and make it to, building up a coalition, because I think Yorba will be much more powerful if we can stay as independent as possible, because the things we want to do in the future necessarily wouldn't be things that VCs would like. Maybe, I don't know. I probably shouldn't say that on a podcast, but it makes it more fun to have open spaces.
Yeah, I mean, it's always an interesting question of alignment of, especially being a benefit corporation.
Yeah.
There has to be, to keep the corporation status, there has to be more alignment to the consumer. And when you do introduce investors, it naturally changes the objective. People invest in a company, generally speaking, not out of altruism, but out of looking for a return. And so when you start shifting that way, then there's more pressure to do certain and make different decisions. And it's not to say that that's bad or wrong, but in terms of the principle and the goal that you're trying to perceive, the more that you can be independent, the more you can stay true to that mission.
Yeah, and I think it also comes from like when we were talking about Ruca and like its cooperative nature and stuff. Like eventually, I'd want to instill some interesting business practices in Yorba at scale that would also rely on things like that, and that wouldn't be that would be putting benefit over profit for some of the things that we'd want to do there. And I think even I mean, it's just I have a fear, I guess, of kind of that late stage kind of changes to those type of things. And I think, when you and I met, I was trying to build Advocate, right, which was wasn't a benefit corporation, but it was a civic-based kind of data democracy, Yelp for politicians type of thing. We could never find the itch, right, for citizens. So we could never actually, that's the thing that took it into debt and created Ruca. It took me into debt and then created Ruca. But with that, I did probably talk to over like 200 VCs and, like talked to all these people, played the game the way that I was told to play the game. And with Ruca, we kind of changed our board. So I'd like to see how our board plays out in the market. And one of the things that scared me the most probably of that VC world and stuff, and this type of questions that I just don't like getting and stuff, was people at the very end of Advocate were potentially going to invest in Advocate. But the types of questions were like, this is really great. And it's great what you've built here. How could we use it for lobbying? We would invest in it if we could lobby it. Or could I lobby Pepsi? I think one of the people was like, I would invest $500,000 in this as like a project, but can we turn this into lobby politicians for Pepsi in Atlanta or something like that? And I was like, what? So like, that's when you start to like, money show up. Yeah. It's just, you never know. It's just kind of like, okay, this is a cool product, but how could we weaponize this for something that I don't really want to do? And so as long, independence.
So you mentioned a few times, maybe there's a premium, get an agent to go and unsubscribe for you, or maybe a few other things. Where does monetization come into play? I mean, at some point for a business to be self-sustaining, it has to bring in money. What's your current thought process and strategy on that side?
Yeah, so we have two different ways of making money. One, which will be live now at launch, and that was important to us, was to have a way to make money at launch, because obviously if you don't, then that can lead to decisions that have to be made further down the line that aren't good. So for us, we have basically just, you're either a user or a member, a premium member on Yorba. So it's $8 a month, or if you get the annualized thing, it's $6 a month, so 25% discount.
I'm guessing
a year. A year. So I think $72 a year with the 25% discount. Or $8 a month for premium. And right now you can kind of, going back to the stepping on the scale, like you can connect everything, you can see everything, you can do all of that. you can take up to the basic kind of weight loss plan, which is 5 actions per month. So you can do 5 things per month, and you can do that every month, and we'll monitor things for you and stuff like that. But to be able to really like take advantage of Yorba and be able to like start taking action on the platform, and to have like data breaches monitor past the first month and stuff, you want to be premium, and that's how we intend to monetize and kind of build a coalition and an army essentially that we can eventually have the collective bargaining power to create what I was talking about around YoPro is what we call it, YoPro and YoAuth, which is
Nice.
kind of the third rail on the infrastructure. We have lots of Yo things. The B2B side is called YoPass, Profile as a Service, and it's account infrastructure. And we've tested it. We've tested designs with clients about like in like startups and stuff, and they thought it was super interesting around. Just think about all the companies that just use like MailChimp or just like mailing list things to manage their things, and we could basically just like Bamboo HR, think of any of those kind of like vertical installations, intercom, right? You don't want to build out all that stuff, so you just install it. Yorba will eventually play in that space potentially, with profiles as a service. YoPass.
That's interesting. I mean,
Yeah,
clearly you've thought a lot about it and you've thought through where the different expansion areas, where the different offshoot products or services can kind of layer in. But even on the monetization strategy, I mean, it sounds like a simple thing of okay, there's the premium version and there's the freemium version. But at the end of the day, without understanding the incentives behind a company or an entity or anything, uh, incentives are what drives outcomes. And
yeah,
that's a Charlie Munger quote, and I love it because it's just so true. Show me the incentives, and I'll show you the outcomes. And I
yeah,
think the model that you have for monetization directly aligns with what is in the consumer's best interest. I
yeah,
give you more access to unsubscribe and clean up your data. And obviously, you guys have costs. You have team members working on it. You have
yeah.
server costs. You have all these things, and so you do need to monetize at some point. But you're doing it in a very transparent way. There's no selling of data. There's no, anything that's behind the scenes or kind of leveraging the trust that you built with your users. You're just giving them more features and services to do things faster and in more bulk.
Yeah, and that's everything that we do on our product roadmap. We've always kind of had it. We weight it based on, does it help people save time, save money, or increase trust? And it needs to do one of those three things. And same with our pricing model, it needs to do all of those things basically. And that's where we kind of put the gates, I guess, is like you can get a lot of value from Yorba for free by stepping on and just kind of seeing like what's out there and seeing what seeing what you're paying for, all that type of stuff. And then um, for premium and stuff, like if you really want to really like harness and like reduce the kind of digital weight that you have online, then the automation of that, starting right now, it's just kind of one-click buttons, but we have a thing called the YoBot that we're building that basically is algorithms and scripts that you can just turn the YoBot on to be like anything, you can basically fight back without even having to go in there and manually click things once we have one-click delete online. But right now you can do it for unsubscribes. So yeah, no, I agree with you. It aligns with that. Save money. Those are the intent that we want for citizens, right? We want you to take action, and we want people to help fund our roadmap so that we have more control over our roadmap. And to do that, we need people to be premium members, and it's not a lot. And it's kind of we try to fit it within kind of the lifestyle type of product things, right? Like the all trails, the things of like if you care about this as part of kind of the footprint of your lifestyle bundle of things that you might pay for, that's kind of where we see Yorba as like just a tool that helps you do that, and eventually kind of a community that will build up around that to enact kind of change around data rights between people and platforms. So yeah,
I'm very excited to track your launch. I've personally been in the
yeah,
alpha,
yeah,
the beta, whatever it's called, and it's been cool to
yeah,
kind of see. It's also a little scary to get in and be like, oh damn, like that's the amount of data, that's the number of subscriptions and accounts that I
yeah.
have out there. It's
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 crazy.
very eye opening because you really just aren't able to get that benchmark any other way.
No, yeah, we've been partnering with TUSDR, which is Terms of Service Didn't Read, and we're creating like a machine learning thing with them, and they're based out of Amsterdam, and just basically reading things and getting privacy grades on stuff. We actually have been using, or one of their machine learning guys has been working with us on like inbox scans to use NLP, to use ML to basically find better, just keep getting the scans better, right? We can always do that, and that's kind of with more people on the platform, the scans get better. We just process data. We don't hold people's data, right?
Right.
But that gets better as that goes through, right? More things go through the pipe gets cleaner. So yeah, it's been fun to kind of watch the evolution of all that, and that's usually the first reaction of Yorba is like, geez, I didn't even know that I had all this type of stuff. And so now the big challenge for us will be how to make that digestible, and people are able to do that. How can we set auto scans, auto actions, right? Because very little people are going to sit down and go one by one. I mean, it feels good definitely to sit down. We'll probably get a lot of people that will pay for it just to believe where we're going with it and
Yeah.
understanding that we're an independent small team. But yeah, I think the more that we can automate action, the more people will come on, that will just set it, forget it, like just unsubscribe me from anything I never open, and anything with bad privacy grades and all that type of stuff. That'll be fun when we get to those points.
Set up the rules for your life and for your data, and then have
Yeah,
Yorba slash an agent just watching out for you, protecting
yeah,
you, unsubscribing and flagging and auto
yeah.
actioning.
Yeah, we're an authorized agent. We kind of created like basically product personas around kind of like if a feature is a guide, or if a feature is an advocate, or if a feature is a data thing or data lawyer, right? Like acting on your behalf. That's where the data call center came out. That's where you'll call like, and then we basically had points of escalation. So if you think of that, let's use email as the easiest one, right? You can unsubscribe. If that doesn't work, you can report spam, right? To the email provider. If that doesn't work, we can offload that to report spam to the broader internet and get you on like block lists and stuff, which you don't want. So you can kind of always escalate the violations upward on the email. We're trying to do the same thing on accounts, right? It's like I can go use your service and unsubscribe or delete my account. I can also send you a request that you can delete in 30 days. If you still haven't responded, then I can essentially kick you up to our data lawyer and our data debt collection center, who will now call you
Yeah.
and tell you to delete it. We need size to get to that, right? Because that's where you need kind of that people power to be able to enact that. But that's where we're going. So
Companies will fear you in the future.
yeah, like what people that care about like all their stuff on there wouldn't be like, oh, that's awesome. So I have like my own data call center that like just harasses these companies to give me my data back. And same way that like if someone's ever been in a debt collector for anything valid or invalid, they just call you all the time and stuff like that. Even if it's like, oh, you have this utility bill from Lawrence, Kansas, personal opinion, personal story from 20 years ago that like is $6 and they've reported you to collections. It's like, what? I was like one of 7 guys on a college lease and I'm in collections because $6 or something 20 years ago. This is ridiculous.
So
Yes,
flipping it around because of a software subscription you signed up to 20 years ago that you don't
yeah,
remember,
yeah,
that data has been sold 15 times to
oh yeah,
Sunday, and then it's been leaked, and you have no idea what to do or where to start or how to start.
yeah,
This is an example of,
yeah,
this is
yeah,
where Yorba comes in.
yeah,
Talk
for sure.
timeline and where you're going, where people sign up.
Yeah, yeah.
How do people get Yorba?
Yeah, absolutely. So the URL is yorba.co. We're launching on November 15th. We're also launching a day early on Product Hunt with kind of discount codes on there for 50% off annual membership. So yeah, we'll be coming out next Tuesday, next Wednesday, depending on. I guess I don't know when this podcast drops. So November 14th, November 14th, Tuesday, we'll be on Product Hunt. November 15th, Wednesday, and we'll be open to all public. And looking forward to that. And we've got a lot of
We'll be
stuff
dropping this
planned.
next Tuesday, so it'll be
Perfect. Today.
yeah,
So today, go to
yeah.
Product Hunt,
Today,
find Yorba on
go to
Product Hunt,
Product Hunt.
and upvote the hell out of it.
Yeah, click that upvote button.
Yeah.
Show the love.
Smash that upvote or whatever the YouTube people say. Like hit like, follow, and that social
Like,
guy you can call.
subscribe, smash,
Yeah,
click, all the
click.
things. Click the bells.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris,
Yeah.
oh,
Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's exciting. Yeah, this is just kind of the first, the relationship management part of this, and then what we'll be working on next year is all about storage and basically what we consider like a Spotify for personal media, which we've been designing and testing right now. So that's kind of the next step, is giving people their own kind of personal media organizer for their identity documents and stuff like that. So, but yeah, no, it's been great talking with you, and we've got a lot of stuff planned. So
Yeah, it'll be
join
exciting
your
to
join.
see the evolution over the coming weeks, months, and years.
Yeah,
You have a very solid foundation. You have a thesis. You have the the direction, and you have the team to get it done, and you're
Yeah.
launching today, as in 14th.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. It's exciting. It all kind of feels like it's aligning. After you launch a lot of these different companies and stuff over the years, some fail and stuff like that. It feels like we have the right team in place and the right type of product. It's always a grind, but it's one that we all enjoy. And I think it's, who knows? Who knows? It will galvanize people, hopefully, and piece by piece, brick by brick, we'll be building Yorba. So.
If people want to follow you specifically or Ruca, what are the links? Where should they go? How do they get connected
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah. So Yorba.co for Yorba. On LinkedIn, Chris Zeunstrom. I'm the only Zeunstrom in the world. I merged my last name with my wife. So the only Zeunstrom in the entire world. I'm very easily to Google. So I
Two of two.
Yeah, two of two. Sorry, three. I have a daughter.
There you go.
But I'm the eldest. I'm the eldest Zeunstrom of the first of its name. Actually, that's my cat. But no, but yeah, I'm not big on Twitter, not big on stuff like that, or X or whatever. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I do most of my posting. Chris Zeunstrom on LinkedIn. You can follow Ruca, which is the collective behind all of this. It's ruca.co. Work with lots of services agents, lots of large clients, startups, founders, everything we talked about at the beginning. So yeah, we kind of do most of our publishing through LinkedIn these days. We don't really like Facebook. Instagram we like for personal stuff, not for business. And Twitter's Twitter, X.
It's so, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Chris,
whatever it is.
Show.
Yeah, thanks so much. Nice to see you. Good chat.
Nice to see you too.
Bye.